Good afternoon. Hi all, and thank you very much for joining us for today's showcase. I'm pleased to be joined here today by Rob Ween and Alan Garcia from OwnBackup. Gentlemen, nice to see you.
Hello.
All right.
Morning.
Good morning. So today, Rob and Alan are going to share an overview and demo of OwnBackup Recover in Dynamics 365, which is a powerful solution designed to address data loss and recovery needs for Microsoft Dynamics and the Power Platform users. Looking forward to seeing that today. Thank you very much for your time all. I'll obviously hand over to you in a second and make sure that you get a lot of time to show us some really powerful aspects of your solution. And for those out there, OwnBackup solution proactively mitigates risk for critical data loss, empowers low-code and no-code developers, and it helps you iterate faster. And it also is going to safeguard data and allow you to focus on critical business operations and peace of mind as well. Before we start, what I want to make sure is that everyone's happy with the chat. If you have any questions, please pop them in the box, and what we'll do is we'll swing back around at the end of the presentation and answer any questions that you might have. But for now, what I'd like to do is hand over to Rob and to Alan and take it away.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Rob Ween. I lead our go-to-market strategy for OwnBackup for Microsoft Dynamics. Really excited to be with you today. And I've been with the company for almost 7 years, so from the very early days. And I'd like to introduce Alan Garcia.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alan Garcia. I am our Global Partner Channel Manager here at OwnBackup. I've been here for a couple of years, but prior to that was at Microsoft for about 7 years. And I've been doing this for over 20 years in the industry and as a partner myself and working through the evolution of Dynamics, we'll say.
Great. And Alan is also a Microsoft MVP, so really excited to have him on staff as well. So who is OwnBackup? We are the #1 SaaS data protection platform. We have almost 6,000 customers. And I think the thing that really jumps off this page is our special relationship with Microsoft. So we've only been around for a little over a year, but as you can see, we're already rising the ranks, and we're an Azure top tier partner, as well as a ISV apps co-sell partner. So I think the value of clients protecting their investment is pretty evident here. So what do we protect? So we started off the company a little over 7 or 8 years ago, protecting the Salesforce ecosystem. But we've moved into other clouds, right? So ServiceNow is one of our newest endeavors. And then as you can see there, Dataverse. So specifically Dynamics 365, the customer engagement platform, and Power Platform, all hosted in Azure. So you might ask, how does data loss and corruption happen in Dynamics, right? Well, I think we're all guilty of it. Almost 50% is caused by human error, right? So I know I've done some things, unfortunately. But as you can see from other stuff, other causes, bad code, right? Integrations. So the more we increase amazing functionality within Dynamics, the more we integrate, right? Which obviously increase risks as well. But then you also have migration errors and then malicious intent. So unfortunately, there is that rogue employee that could happen out there. So, you might also think data loss rarely happens. Well, we can write novels on the use cases and incidents over the years that we've helped, right? So remember, nobody is immune from data loss. So the reason why we exist is something called the shared responsibility model. And basically, it's consistent across all platforms. So whether it be Salesforce, ServiceNow, Microsoft. Think about this. Microsoft is responsible for uptime and availability. You, as a customer, are responsible for what happens to your data. So we liken it to an apartment building, right? So think of this, so the landlord, right, is responsible for having a building, providing you a place to live. You as the tenant are responsible for what happens within your apartment. So let's say you buy a beautiful new white couch, you invite your friends over, and you spill red wine on the couch. That is your responsibility to replace the couch, not a landlord. So think about it the same as a CRM. Microsoft is not responsible for your data loss. And even to take it a step further, it's in all Microsoft MSAs under Section 6B, which actually says they are not responsible for data loss. And they actually recommend using a third party to back up all the information. So now you're actually going to see it in action and some real life use cases. So Alan, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Great. Thanks, Rob. So before I start, I just want to kind of paint a picture around what the data recovery lifecycle looks like. And so, at a high level, there are 4 phases in a data recovery lifecycle. The first is obviously when the problem gets identified. So users, developers, anybody that is working with your Dynamics or your Dataverse data is going to see something odd. They're going to call that out. But then once that happens, you have to narrow the scope of that data. You have to identify what it is. We never really want to just throw the baby out with the bathwater and do a full-blown, environment restore. We want just the specifics of what was affected. And then after that, you have to go and gather the information. You've got to get the data that needs to be restored, prepare it, understand what it is, and then finally initiate the restore. And many times, if not most, this is a cycle that will go repeatedly until you get it right. And so with that, this can be a time suck on the projects that you might be working on, and it can create some challenges there. So here within our application OwnBackup, the first thing you'll notice is that we're not in your Power Platform Admin Center. We're not in a model-driven app or a Canvas app. We're completely outside of the environment. And the reason for that is the best practice is to keep these things separate, keep your backup system separate from your operating system. So it's not like you put your spare car keys in the glove box. It sort of defeats the purpose. So in here, what we're looking at is a tile for each one of the environments that I've got set up that's running backups. And in the scenario that I've got a data loss or a data corruption event, I don't want to spend a lot of time waiting for backups to restore, doing advanced find, and so on and so forth. So here, I can simply go into the details of my backup. I can see at a glance what the health is on my backup, so I get a sense of confidence there. And then I can see in my chart here, my interactive chart will tell me these events. And so I can see, okay, there's a good health, in terms of the records added and changed. But here, when I hover and I see the deleted records or the removed records, there's a big spike. And that creates some concern for me. And so I'm going to go and see what the details are around that. So once I do that, now I get all of the information around what's in my backup. And that's something that in the Power Platform Admin Center, you can't get. You have to actually restore the entire environment to a new sandbox first, and then run your queries to find out what's in the environment. Here, we expose this to you right up front. We make it easy to get to it so you understand what you're looking for. So here I can see that I've got these accounts, and I had 1,000 that were deleted. So I can quickly run a comparison with a single click to see what was happening on that table between this backup and the last known good backup. And since we're storing this outside of the environment, it has zero effect on the actual operating Dynamics environment. So here we have the information, and we can come in and look at the details around what was in that event of what was deleted. So this second phase of narrowing the scope, we've identified our problem. Now we've narrowed our scope. We know exactly what records were affected. And so we can take a look here and find whichever records we want. And we can add these into our restore bucket and prepare them for right back into the environment, just those records that were affected. So now I've done that third phase in a matter of seconds. I was able to perform that third phase in the data recovery lifecycle. And now finally I can execute on that restore. So now I'm taking this high level account record and I'm preparing that one to restore into the environment that I'm targeting. So in a matter of minutes, we have an easy to use interface here that allows you to go through and find the information, quarantine it and prepare it for import. And then as you can see here, we can initiate this and have that right back in just a matter of minutes to the target environment. A couple of key things to note here too is that we can write back, since we're writing through the Dataverse API, we will write back to a sandbox environment or a production environment. So you can actually repeat the process into the production environment with very little, if not no effort, when or if the time comes. So that's the quick end-to-end on what we have in our application. There are some more nuances here, and I'll pause here to see if we have any questions in the chat. How much time does it take to implement the OwnBackup solution into Dynamics? That's a wonderful question, because when we're running our projects, we have to be mindful of how the solutions are going to tie in together and how one project might affect the velocity or the quality of another project. And so for that reason, we designed this to be a completely headless deployment. Zero need for project management or anything like that. This is what it looks like when you set up a backup on the OwnBackup service. So 1 click, 2 clicks. It's going to ask me for my authentication into my tenant for my 3rd click. And it's looking at the global discovery service in my tenant, and it's finding the environments for me to pick. So now 4 clicks and 5 clicks, and I've now set up my environment for backup. And you'll see here that it's now starting the first full backup, and it's initiating that for me to run. So no solution files in your tenant, no solution files in your environment, and you can set this up literally in seconds. The last thing I wanted to show in today's quick demo is our smart alerts, which is the ability for us to configure rules for our backups to look for and to proactively notify you if something happens. And so, for example, yesterday I was talking to a customer who had some integrations running that were feeding a fairly large amount of records into the posts table. And so she was telling me how that if more than 15% of what exists in the table is added, that's an indicator that something's gone rogue with their integration. And so here we quickly configured adding the posts where more than 15% is changed or is added rather. So all we have to do is fill out the values that we want. We could do values, we could do record counts, we could do percentages, and then it exposes all of our record types in the Dataverse. So we could do these alerts against any of them, and we can do it on creation, deletion, or addition. So now you have the ability to preempt that first phase of the data recovery lifecycle, because you'll be notified before the event, or before the end users notice that and alert you.
Alan, if I can add, over the years, I've heard that this feature has helped save the day. It alerts you way ahead of time instead of waiting for that person to run into your office as an admin saying, "Where did my records go?" It basically, think about this coming in the next morning after the backup runs and seeing something out of the ordinary or anomaly happening, and you can tackle that right away. So this could be a very, very useful proactive measure.
So the benefits to partnering with OwnBackup are that you'll get some increased productivity. And the increases come in the form of your project teams that are deploying and designing and enhancing the uniqueness of your Dynamics deployments or your Power Apps that are saving into Dataverse. You can stay on track with that. You don't have to switch gears and become a DBA or work on data for a period of time to fix an oopsie. You can just stay focused on design and build. And so you don't have that stop and go in your project efforts. You'll have more agility as a business in order to focus on those digital transformations instead of worrying about data getting messed up or lost or whatnot. And then of course you're reducing that risk and downtime. So these things do happen, like what Rob was saying. These things do happen. That's why we were created as a company, because these things happen. And many thousands of customers later, and many hundreds of events per month. These are legitimate business data outages that our customers are using our tool for every month. And so we help mitigate and reduce that risk for the downtime. But then maybe the most important thing is that the quality of your projects will go up. Think about the data as the output of your app design. And so you can design all you want, but if the data isn't telling the tale of a good app, then you have some quality challenges. So if you have a better control and ownership over that data, then you can quantitatively improve the quality of your projects.
And Alan, I'll bring up, I've heard this over the years that people think of backup and recoveries only for that catastrophic event, but hopefully through, these tools that they've seen, you can use this on a day-to-day basis to track what's going on in your CRM and really get a good handle and stay proactive. So it's not just that catastrophic event. There is another question actually for you, Alan, here. Are there any data impact or restrictions on customizations when restoring a backup in Dynamics? Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. And no, so when we execute our backups, when we do our nightly backups, we're asking the Dataverse API for whatever is there at the time. So if you add a custom entity in your project and you're pushing that out, and then you have to restore it, we already know. You don't have to configure anything in our environment to add those custom tables and fields and whatnot. It'll pick it up dynamically for you and then allow you to restore that dynamically as well. And when we're doing our restores, there's no risk to it because we're going through the Dataverse API. So all of the performance and scalability that Microsoft gives you is still intact because the API is monitoring and managing that. Largely, it's all running async in the background. But yeah, so there's not going to be any performance hits to the end users when you're doing a restore as well, because of the way that Microsoft has architected Dynamics and the Dataverse platform.
So that's huge. You never have to do anything when you add custom entities or customizations. It automatically picks it up. So you never have to proactively think about stuff like that. Right.
And just to pile on a little bit to what you were saying there, Rob, in terms of project life cycles, we go through our testing life cycles, and a lot of times we'll go through a series of tests and we'll get into UAT, something fails. And what we don't take the time to do because it's cumbersome is reset the data so that we can have the exact same test results and eliminate data-bound false positives. It's cumbersome without a tool like OwnBackup. But with our tool, now you can just select that table, restore it to before you were running your UAT tests, and all the data will be back to ground zero. So there are some nice nuances that our customers are finding and using here in terms of the DevOps lifecycle in order to really condense things and make things repeatable and easy to do instead of cumbersome to the point where they don't want to.
And Alan, included in your production environments there, your instances, we also allow you to include all of your sandboxes, UAT and such. So we don't cap that at all.
Yep, that's right. So partnering with OwnBackup, we have three scenarios for partnering. You can think of it in some senses as like a crawl, walk, run. The first is our referral program, which is where you can partner with OwnBackup. You can refer your customers over to us so that we can work with them and get them situated with a tool that is going to give them the confidence in their data on the day-to-day, like what we were just showing. The next one is a reseller program, which is exactly what it sounds like. You can resell our product for us, and we will be the supporting tool and product on the back end. And then the third one is the final evolution, which is much more of a true partnership where we get into some things like doing a joint co-sell. We will help find solution and value for each customer distinctly with you. It is truly in lockstep working with you in order to get the best solution for your customers, technically and value-wise. So we'd love to hear from you. So please check out our page at aka.ms/ownbackup or email us at microsoft@ownbackup.com. Yeah, Dan, back to you.
Brilliant. Well, I'm actually in awe. As soon as you mentioned the restoration of data into a UAT for UAT testing, instantly I'm sort of having flashbacks of scenarios where I definitely could have used that. So as a project manager at heart, you've absolutely drawn my attention in that scenario. It's quite outstanding what you've managed to achieve in just a few years. So congratulations, you should be very proud of the tool for sure. But I'm sure it was as useful to everyone else as it was to me. I'm definitely, as I say, recognizing synergies. And I think actually we've just had one more question. So before I wrap up, I think I'll possibly let you answer that one.
Oh, this is one of my favorite questions. Yeah. So doesn't Microsoft offer a backup and recovery solution already? Absolutely, they do. Microsoft will allow you to back up on demand and recover on demand. And the way that's working is that there is a weekly full backup that happens at the data center level at Microsoft. And then they use a daily incremental that is their daily. And then they use the log files for their point-in-time recovery, which is every 30 minutes. So you can do that. The challenges that we find are manyfold with that. The first and most predominant is it's all or none. So say you have a single Dynamics environment and you're running a sales app and a customer service app, which is super duper common. If your sales team has a data event and you have to restore that entire environment, then your customer service team will suffer the consequences of that recovery. So you can't selectively choose, I just want to recover the sales mistake and leave the customer service data intact. You have to overwrite everything. Another nuance as well is in your CI/CD or your ALM practices. So application lifecycle management is top of mind for virtually all Dynamics customers right now. And so everybody is deploying fixes, enhancements, new features into their end user environments. These projects are ongoing. And so if you're going to restore from last Monday, well, the out of the box restore has no idea what version you're on today. And so your solution history, it gets truncated in that restore. And then you have to find a way to redeploy all of the solutions that you did since Monday in the proper order without having any solution history to reference against. So it becomes kind of a shot in the dark methodology towards getting your metadata and your solutions back in place when you're doing that full environment restore.
Yeah, and to think about that, you're losing all the information. So if I'm reverting my entire instance back to, let's say, yesterday, all of the good changes that I've had all of the notes that I've added, all of that gets lost. So you're almost causing more data loss by doing that. There's a couple other things. Retention. It's actually 7-day retention, 7 days on sandboxes and 28 days on production data. So if your loss or corruption happened beyond 28 days, there's no option. So we're hearing that, that's doesn't check the box for any requirements. Just so you know, we don't cap data limits. So there's uncapped data limits as well as up to 99-year retention with OwnBackup. So we like to call it a lifetime of retention.
Yeah, and a lot of customers are finding that the Dataverse storage that they have, the longer you use it, the more storage you have, and it's not the cheapest data that you could purchase in the Azure stack, and so when they can archive or basically bulk delete out of the live tenant or the live environment and know that we have their data in an immutable state, this is something that most of our customers are actually using in order to save on that Dataverse storage.
And Alan, you brought up immutable. A lot of compliance, requirements here. Immutable backups.
All right. Any other questions that I missed?
Yeah, I do see one there.
Will implementing this tool affect any of my concurrent project work and solutions? No, absolutely not. So as I was showing in the beginning here, we don't deploy any solution into the tenant or into the environment. Our application is an external SaaS application that looks in at the point of time that we're executing. So when we execute a backup, we make a connection into the Dataverse API, and then we copy the data out. When we do a restore, we make a new connection into the Dataverse API and do the right function. So there's no need for us to have any kind of solution files or metadata inside your environment, which means that the legitimate solution files you're working on in order to customize the customer's environments and make it work for them can continue without any kind of interference. So it's very easy to slipstream. In fact, the vast majority of our customers are pleasantly surprised at how fast and easy it is to get this in play without affecting any of their other project teams.
A question I get asked a lot is what is our ideal, customer? It's unique. It's any customer that's using Dynamics and or Power Platform that values their data, right? They're running business critical processes through it, or they have compliance, regulatory requirements. So, they've realized that the out of the box solution is not sufficient enough, and they want that granular restore back to any point in time up to that 99-year retention policy. And that's customizable. You can customize it to less than 99 years if that's too much for you.
Yeah, another customer type that we see very frequently is customers that have compliance requests that they are processing, such as GDPR or CCPA. These requests require a process and auditability to them, so that you can indemnify yourself as a customer. And we have the capability of performing those requests for the forget and the rectify. And this is something that if you try to do that natively in the tool, you have to build your own custom solution. And so there's risk inherently. There's going to be risk there when you're building a solution in order to be compliant.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I would go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, Rob, carry on. No, carry on. I was just going to reinforce that absolutely sort of hot topic and has been for a couple of years now with the GDPR and the compliance definitely our side. So it's great to know that actually that's in place and supports that process, because it was a bit of a mystery when it first started to come about and we started to hear it on the scene. But Rob, back over to you. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, that's okay. So I was just going to say that a lot of people don't think of the disaster recovery plan for their CRM. They have it in place for many other systems, but they're blindly relying on the out-of-the-box solution. And then, unfortunately, something happens, and then they realize it's not adequate enough. So, yeah, we would challenge all the partners on the call to ask of their clients what their requirements are, and how they would recover back in time to a granular level.
Absolutely brilliant. I think you've hit all the questions, and I'll be very remiss of me if I didn't thank everyone for putting in such good questions. And actually, Alan, Rob, clearly you know the product through and through, and have answered those all, I believe, absolutely brilliantly. So we really appreciate that, and again, appreciate everyone who's engaged and asked questions throughout this Seer 365 showcase. But Alan, Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been really informative and really useful for myself, and I'm sure for many people watching. And I look forward to sort of hearing where you're going with this in the future, and making sure that actually lots of partners consider that data moving forward.
Great. Thanks for having us, Dan. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, everyone watching at home.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.